It's big plays.
What a play!
Bad days.
I bet this guy's into the woods $100.
And parlays.
That's the one. Parlay.
Big plays, bad days, and parlays on Hurrdat Sports.
Here to place a wager.
Saxophones are on, and we have liftoff. Big plays, bad days, and parlays. Troy Aldridge, Andrew Rogers back with you, having a blast. Finally, back on the air to share our opinions, our wins, our losses over the break. We took some time off. It was great to kind of spend some time with friends and family throughout the holidays. I went back to St. Louis. I saw Troy in person, but then Troy ended up going to Florida, which I'm sure was a blast.
Yes, it was. Wish it was a little warmer, but never going to complain about going to Florida.
70-something?
Yep, 70s, dude, like low.
Was it murky?
Was cloudy.
Yeah.
They were dealing with fog for some reason, too. Like, the beach was just so foggy. Like, you couldn't look to your left and your right and really see the beach.
Was it cold on the sand, too? I feel like that tends to be an issue.
Once the sun came out, it wasn't too bad. But the sun came out really on Sunday, and they all went to the beach, and I had Red Zone on.
Oh, yeah.
So
you spent
unfortunately, the beach can
6
wait.
hours. Yeah. You spent 6 hours inside. Outside of that, though, did you go to like Universal or anything? Like, did you go to a theme park?
No, it was just Destin. We just stayed in a little like house. We rented a house down there with like a hot tub and stuff, and stayed. At least
you had the hot tub. That's clutch.
Yeah, and had a little TV out there on the side of the house. It was sick.
Oh wow! So you just spent most of your time there.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
You probably got out of the hot tub looking like a grandpa, all pruny. Like wrinkly, getting out.
And at night, it was chilly, too. So, like, getting out was kind of miserable.
Although, that's low-key fire that you could sit outside, probably listen to the waves of the ocean while you're watching X game on TV.
Yeah, we got there right before the Thursday night game, so.
That's awesome.
That was awesome.
Yeah, NFL didn't treat me very well over the week. It didn't treat us very well over the weekend. We ended up being down, but thankfully, there was one play that Troy and I made together that really allowed us to kind of find our way into gambler territory, and that was a same-game 7-leg NBA parlay that we placed on Friday, Thursday, one of the days. It was the Bulls taking on whom?
Milwaukee.
Yep, correct, because you said the day or two prior that Giannis boned your bet.
Mm-hmm.
And
on Christmas Day. Yep.
Then we followed that up with, well, he's not going to do that twice. I mean, he's Giannis. He'll end up getting his points. So we ended up building, and we only built a parlay because it was a stepped-up same-game parlay boost that DraftKings was offering. Mm-hmm. And we were scoring, because we probably spent $80 to $100 placing money on NHL, which didn't hit.
Never does.
Which didn't hit, except for last night. Didn't hit.
Yeah, you're welcome for not writing that. Otherwise, it was screwed.
Yeah, you would have just thrown that ticket away. No, and I'll touch on that point further here in a sec. But we placed about $80 to $100 on NHL bets. And then I was just kind of looking around DraftKings because Troy uses FanDuel now. Why do you use FanDuel? Oh, yeah, that's right. And we went to the NBA page, and there was a boost, and I'm like, hey, Troy, pick a game, because he's the NBA guy, not me. I'll watch the Bulls, but he follows the NBA. I'm in a fantasy NBA league, but never set my lineup. Troy, however, tends to win the NBA fantasy league more times than not, so I'd rely on him when it comes to picking players, steals, this, that, and the other. But a lot of it's also just kind of following along with their statistical trend. If they are prone to getting steals, maybe grab them for 1 or 2 steals, but play it on the safe side whenever you build a same-game parlay. Rebounds, points, same type of deal. But we ended up doing that, and we only put 20 on it, 10 each, and the boost ended up being a $280 total bonus for a grand total of like $820. We took home $400 each.
Yep.
So a big win there. And, those are kind of the wins that allow you to bet and parlay as much as we do.
Right.
You kind of bank on those wins.
It just takes one, man. Just takes one to make up for almost a month.
And we're not out here spending $100 a day. Like, there are days that we do that just because there's so many sporting events going on. And it also, it's a situation, too, of what are you doing that night? Are you doing nothing? Are you playing video games and watching games on TV? Or are you going over to the Rents for dinner when you know you're not going to be watching for the first 2 hours and you're like, do I really want to bet on this? Because I'm not going to be following along. I'm going to be preoccupied here or there. So, of course, it just depends on your schedule. But for the most part, you got to just make sure you balance out your finances. And in this case, a play like that worked. It worked out. And then we tried to do it again a couple of days later. Got a little too greedy. Put 10 legs in it.
Yeah. So, like you said, exactly. You're exactly right. Too greedy.
But all in all, I've been happy with the last couple of days. I have been a lot happier sports betting than I have gambling at the casino. We went to the casino over break, and that did not go well for us.
Yeah, me hitting at the casino is less likely than me hitting a sports bet at this point. I mean, it is.
It's exhilarating,
and I would rather sports bet because
it takes 3 hours.
Know you're in for 3 hours, right?
It takes 3 hours to get an outcome.
Point for we could go to the casino and burn $200 in 30 minutes. 100%.
Which happens more times than not.
Than it should. Yeah, exactly.
I remember we went to a bachelor party. This was a month and a half ago, and we came in there with a good chunk of change. Team strat it. Gambling gods weren't on our side that night. Actually, weren't on my side all day because Clemson only won by 6 instead of 6.5. But we lost a good chunk of money in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I think I sat down and played automated roulette, automated craps, and say what you want about that in the comments. Leave your comments and say, only play the table, never play the automated. It's trying to cheat you and things like that. Say whatever you want. Those are the only spots open whenever you get to the casino. So I'm not waiting around or trying to crowd around a group of people at the roulette table where balls can also be weighted for all intents and purposes.
We can't be playing $25 a hand. We're coming in with $200.
Right.
That's like 8 rolls.
That's another great point.
8 rolls.
But I think we lost 205 minutes because it was you sit down, you play about $50 on a fresh craps game. You play, we were playing greens at the time, and then hedging it, and you miss the hedge, you miss the green, and you get a good number, which is like a 6 or an 8 on craps. You double, triple down on the odds, 7 right after it. You've already lost 100 plus just on in 30 to a minute. You lost $100 plus. So you have those nights, but those, like you said, sports betting nights, and they're just more fun because there's longevity to it. You don't just sit down and kind of fall into your own somber 5-10 minutes in.
Right.
You know that if you have a goal bet and you need one more leg and the 9 o'clock game just started, you have at least until 11:15 to know the outcome.
Absolutely. And it's to the point where I rarely even watch the games. It's especially NHL, because there's just so many good chances, and when I'm watching, those good chances rarely turn into good things. I remember me and James, I wrote a 3-goal one with him. He needed Tage. I'm like, that's all we needed. I'm like, okay. It was like the middle of the second period. I'm like, yeah, Dad, I'll turn the game on. I'll watch it for a little bit. 5 minutes to watching the game. Post. I immediately turned it off. Just immediately closed it.
Because you knew that's how the rest of the night was going.
Yeah. I mean, just the loudest post crossbar, and I just shut it off.
Sure.
Couldn't do it. That's why I don't watch.
Yeah, that's a big deal. I, however, last night had some great luck. I've been doing this lately, and I'll recommend this to our listeners as well. And we appreciate you joining us here on Big Plays, Bad Days, and Parlays. I've been doing a 2-goal parlay. So I take 2 guys from a game that I think or know will be high scoring. Sometimes I'll reference a guy like Troy. Sometimes I'll reference, analytic pages like the Action Network or Covers or things like that online to figure out if the over is projected to hit. But I take like 2 locks most of the time. Sometimes I'll do a gross one, but for the most part, I'll take 2 locks. So last night I took Jordan Kyrou in the Blues game and Austin Matthews. I was going to take William Nylander because he leads the team in goals, but Matthews was starting to heat up, and he's more of a lock than Nylander. I think everybody knows that. And so I parlayed those 2 together. And mind you, Kyrou is the top goal scorer, especially with Tarasenko out. And then I referenced to Troy. And I gave him a list of 5 games, and he chose the game that ended up being the most goals scored, which was the Capitals Sabres game. And it was just kind of an easy thing, like you said, Tage Thompson and Alex Ovechkin. It's 2 guys that score a lot. And, I went to dinner with some friends. Good reaction time, just a door slamming.
It's the cat getting into a bag.
Damn Dusty.
I know.
You want to take it away?
Yeah, he's great. I don't know. He's just trying to get my attention clearly, and it's just not working. Well, it is working.
Well, it is because we stopped.
All right, he's out.
I saw your reaction. I'm just throwing your hands up in disgust. No, but, I end up parlaying the same gamers together, Matthews and Kyrou, and Tage and Ovi. Bet those individually, and then I parlay the 4 because I'm backing those 4 guys, so why not? Excuse me. And I was at dinner last night, and all I kept seeing was my phone going, ESPN notification, ESPN notification, ESPN notification. And I'm like, what the hell is going on? And I look down, and I see that there's 4 goals being scored in the Maple Leafs Blues game in a matter of like 2 minutes. And one of them was Kyrou. And I'm like, sweet, there's one. And then you texted me Tage scored prior to me getting to the restaurant. And then I see an update come through that Nylander scored. And I'm like, oh, no, is that how the night's going to go? Because I asked Troy, hey, I'm in between Nylander and Marner. And then I said, or do I just do Matthews because he's the lock? I had Nylander in the bed already, took him out, put in Matthews instead. And simultaneously, I text Troy Nylander. He texts me, God, I hope Matthews scores.
Oh, yeah.
And he did. And, I ended up, $355 up?
Yeah.
After handing over, I don't know.
And that was really good
$55.
odds for 3 guys that score a decent amount.
Well, and like, you said it too.
Kyrou was the hardest one, and he was the first one.
You said it too. FanDuel has great odds.
Yeah, they do.
If you're looking for just odds, not odds boosts, because they don't have odds boosts, at least as far as I know.
They sometimes do the no sweat stuff, but they don't really ever have boosts.
Right. In regards to odds boosts, go to DraftKings. In regards to better odds, go to FanDuel.
Absolutely.
And if DraftKings is not offering an odds boost, hang out on FanDuel for that day, because it does seem like your odds increase by 15 to 20 in the plus column every single time. If it's minus 130 on DraftKings, it's minus 112 on FanDuel.
Yeah. Yep.
So a good day for me yesterday. You've had, though, some good days, though, at least over the break, right?
A few. I mean, nothing that's like you said, just kind of things that are getting me back to being able to bet every day. Mm-hmm. And the NFL Sunday was rough.
Bad.
It's
100
and
plus.
It's the guys that I think are locks that aren't doing. They're not. It's not that they're not doing anything. They're just not finding the end zone, and that's the only thing I like to do. I don't really like to do yards and stuff like that, and I should, because Kelsey minus 170 to score, probably 70 yards or minus 170. So
maybe not. That may even be closer to minus 120.
Yeah. So, I mean, I should probably look more into that, but it's like Algier, who I put in my bets, getting a touchdown, and Saquon Barkley isn't. So it's.
And there are days, too, where Brandon Ayuk scores a touchdown but has 24 yards.
Yeah, exactly.
And Debo's out right now. And it's like, well, I'd rather have Ayuk to get the touchdown opposed to trying to sweat out 49 yards.
Yeah. Couldn't put the right people together. And it's my own fault.
We were together though, and like that's the problem because I only had a 3 bet, and this is when you know it's going south, because the 3 in the bet were. I know the 2 that missed. I'll avoid the one that ended up scoring for now, unless Troy remembers it. But we needed Brian Robinson to score a touchdown, and we needed Justin Fields to score a touchdown. And Justin Fields playing the Lions, and he had 2 runs in the first quarter that stretched 40-plus yards. And he got tackled within the 10. At least once close to the 5-yard line.
The one that scored was Hill. Tyreek.
Yes, Tyreek Hill. Was that the only touchdown by the Dolphins that day?
I believe so.
So, yeah, Tyreek Hill gets into the end zone before Teddy Bridgewater gets hurt. Mm-hmm. And then Brian Robinson, on the other hand, gets tackled at the 1-yard line. Can't find his way through the line.
Multiple times.
Yeah.
Multiple times.
And then Carson Wentz sneaks it. Also, I think, the only touchdown of the day for the Commanders.
Yeah, I think so.
And there was only 1 touchdown scored by the Bears, and I think that was Kmet right off the start of the game.
Yep.
So, I just couldn't believe – I could believe that didn't hit because of those 2 outcomes, watching Fields get tackled so close, watching Robinson not get in. But at the same time, you're right. You look at these guys, and you're looking at the matchup, and how do they not get in?
Mm-hmm.
And more times than not, they just don't get in. I don't get it. But hopefully we have better luck this weekend. Week 18 for the NFL is going to be weird because the playoff. It's going
to be a week to do some gross touchdowns, I think.
But also the playoff picture isn't as disgusting as years past have looked because there's so many teams that could still get the bye, could still get a better spot in the playoffs, or a team like the Packers that have to win to get into the playoffs. Normally at this stage, the Packers are sitting there, guys.
Everybody, yeah.
And now they're not. So it's kind of weird because week 18 almost feels like week 12. The only thing that's really weird is the Damar Hamlin injury that led to the suspension of that football game, then to the postponement of it. But, like, when do they play that? Like, at what time do they get the Bills-Bengals game in? Because those are 2 teams.
Unfortunately, I think that it's going to get tossed away.
Do you think it goes down as a tie? Because you look at these 2 teams, and the reason I bring this up, it's because the Bengals are what, 11-4?
Mm-hmm.
Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
And the Bills are 12-3, but the Chiefs are 13-3. So if the Bills were to win that game, they'd be 13-3. And say the Chiefs lose this week, because the Chiefs are going to have to play everybody in order to secure the bye. I think, right? Did they beat the Bills earlier this year?
I don't know if they played. Did they play?
I feel like they played, but I can't remember who won.
And the Bengals could have won the division in that game.
And that's another thing. So
now they play us, and if they would have lost that game,
I just don't know how you don't play. I don't know how you don't play it. Especially, too, this goes back into even deeper conversation of fantasy. And how do you handle fantasy? Do you just put it in the eyes of the fantasy manager and just say, like, hey, pay out as
I saw a great point that said that potentially, you got to hear me out on this, that pretend that you could have switched that out, right? Mm-hmm. So you would have to put in guys on your bench and then take your total from there.
Go ahead. Sorry.
So if they, like, your brother was the one that got hosed the most out of this whole situation in our league specifically. Now, what if we say, like, does he have a backup quarterback?
No.
See, and that's the issue there. I was thinking, like, for me, like, I could plug in someone on my bench for Mixon, and I still wouldn't win, right?
Right.
So even if I couldn't not started Mixon,
and you needed 95 points.
Nobody else on my team was going to get me that win, right?
Right.
So that's what I'm looking at for Joe. Like, if he would have started someone other than Chase.
Smith. He does have Geno Smith. I'm
Okay,
sorry.
so how many points did Geno Smith get?
He ended up with 40,
So add that to his total.
which would be 192.
And how much would he be down?
3.
And then and then if he started one of his backup receivers, he probably would have won.
Well, yeah, he would have won regardless because Thielen got 3.1, which would have beaten Tanner because Joe had .42 to his name. Tanner had .32, so he would have beaten Tanner by like .1. Or he could have started Brandon Cooks, which he wouldn't have. He would have started Thielen,
Right.
and Cooks got 9.9. Robert Woods got 17.
That's the only thing I can think of is if you took bench players
right
and put them in.
Yeah.
That I mean, I don't, like you said, dude. I don't have any other way to look at it.
The thing that, like, this is what really screws me, and it's the fact that I needed Diggs and I needed Tyler Bass to combine for more points than Gabe Davis while only being down 8 points in another league.
Yeah.
And Diggs, I mean, he had 4.6 before going out. Gabe Davis didn't even have a catch. And you know Diggs, that's your number one option. You know he's going to go off.
You get 8 points from Bass, and then you just need Diggs to outscore.
Right. And Bass already had 3 points.
Yeah,
so
it's crazy.
It's trying to like find a way to manage that if they do get rid of that. And you know, we've been talking back and forth a little bit. Do you just split first place? Like, do you just go like combine first and second place and just split it right down the middle?
Right.
Or do you award it based on what you see? Because that's just it. And sorry, not sorry. Like, is it just like, you know, stat corrections happen all the time. You think you won, and then all of a sudden the fumble or the interception was actually a fumble, and you lost 2 points instead of 1 from your quarterback. I don't know. We've never had to handle situations like this before. We've never seen something like this.
Yeah. It's one thing for a guy to get hurt, I don't know, man.
Side note, the Chiefs and Bills did play week 6. Buffalo won that game. So if Buffalo were to have a 13-3 record right now, they'd have the bye. So that's something to keep in mind too of why this game actually matters for the bye.
Because I think every team might play this week 18, but Buffalo.
You don't think Buffalo's going to try to play out against the Patriots?
If
I know
if DeMar isn't like conscious. And I mean, I don't see them playing. Mm-hmm. I really don't. That's a big game, and that's a big game for the Patriots too.
How do you prepare for this game?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. There's no way they're practicing. There's no way.
I mean, if they are practicing, it's walkthroughs. They're not doing contact.
They're running on the treadmill to stay in a little bit of shape.
Right. I don't know, man. Yeah, because and of course we pray for DeMar Hamlin and that he. Miraculously has a turnaround because what a scary sight that was. You never want to see that. But, as much as we want to make sure that he is healthy in this regard, like that's the priority. It's also like people are allowed to talk about the NFL schedule still in the playoff picture. So you got to prioritize correctly, as in, hey, Hamlin comes first, then it's football.
That's why, I don't think that they should play. I don't know what they're going to do.
I actually thought that if he wasn't okay, nobody should play.
I agree, too.
Because how fair is it?
Suspend it for at least push it back 1 week. It's not going to hurt anybody. Well, it'll help some teams with guys getting healthy.
How fair is it to not only just the situation of, if the Bills don't play, it's unfair because the Patriots, then they could make it into the playoffs. Like, that's not what I'm saying here. How fair is it, though, to make opposing players that are not only friends with this guy, but know this guy, or, play the same sport as this guy that could get hit at any point the same way, and expect them to play as hard as they would? People are going to get injured because they're not going to be mentally in the game. The NFL should do their due diligence and just push it back. As you said, push it back a week.
Yeah, that's not going to hurt anything.
the health and safety of the players come first. The health of Damar Hamlin is of foremost importance right now, of utmost importance. It's almost like, we don't even need to talk about Week 18 games because I'm actually more on the side of they're not going to play or that they shouldn't play, and standing by that decision.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the players do around the league if they don't get canceled.
Mm-hmm. But I'll tell you what, there are analysts out there that have made cases about, hey, what do you do with the NFL? Like now, of course, you put priority on Hamlin first, but don't ever knock an analyst too at this stage to talk about the NFL playoff picture. Like, at some point you get back to, the day at hand and what is still looming in the future. But we do, sit here and pray for Damar Hamlin and his health, and hopefully he can make a speedy recovery. I did see something today, and we talked about it on the show, Coffee and Cream in the Morning on Hail Varsity Radio, and it was an update from a friend of his that got word from the family that he was making progress, but they couldn't really go into detail of what progress actually was. But at least there's some sign of positivity there.
Yeah, the coach for the Bengals just said that the only thing McDermott said, one of the first things he said was, I need to be in the hospital, dude. I shouldn't be coaching this game.
Right.
So, which is, I think they all rushed there, man. I bet a lot of people haven't even left. I bet a lot of teammates.
The Bills ended up going back that night. I don't know.
Really?
I don't know if everybody on the team went back because I know Diggs showed up at the hospital. But
I bet a lot of them went.
And I'm sure they did, but maybe the doctors and the family said, hey, you can't do anything, right? Nobody can do anything but the doctors right now. It could be better to go spend time with your family, your loved ones, pray, things like that. And they may all have went home, but I'm pretty sure they flew home that night. Outside of that, though, let's change gears here and talk about another football game coming up, and it's the national championship game. TCU, Georgia. The line set at 12.5 on DraftKings. I don't know if that has changed on FanDuel, but that seems awfully high even at this point for a national championship game.
And I don't want it to be a blowout. Nobody does. Nobody wants it to be a 13, 14-point game the whole time. Could it be?
I think it's going to be a lot closer than what people think. Michigan was one of the best defenses in football. And Max Duggan and that TCU team, which has a lot of speed on the outside, found ways to expose that defense. To the extreme. Almost to the point to where you didn't believe what you were watching. The
two pick sixes didn't help either.
Yeah, exactly, early on. But the backup running back having a day for TCU was something that was unexpected. But Max Duggan's the real deal. Local kid to the Omaha area, grew up in Council Bluffs, Iowa, where I go to place all of my sports bets. And he wasn't even the starter, Troy, to start the year.
It's insane.
He was the backup. Filled in for an injured starter and just ran with the job.
New coach. I didn't know that either.
Sonny Dykes, first-year head coach. I believe TCU went 5-7 last year, didn't make a bowl game, and now they're in the national championship game. And, something else we talked about, Nebraska's in the same state. They have a new coach. Is it fair to put expectation level on a new coach like this and say, I'm not saying national championship because I'll give you a stat here that proves why TCU shouldn't be in the national championship. But is it fair to make the expectation a bowl game for next year already for a first-year head coach? Are we there? Are we at that point? Because it sure as heck seems so. Washington did it with Kalen DeBoer. A bunch of other coaches did it in their first program. It's unfair to factor in USC because they were so good, and Lincoln Riley's a great coach, but it was his first year at USC, and he got them all the way into college football playoff territory.
Mm-hmm.
So it's almost like the expectation level for coaches has gone up from 3 years to 2 years to 1 year in the matter of 3 years. But looking at this game even further, I think the way TCU was able to throw the ball against Michigan and the way that Ohio State was able to expose Georgia even, I don't see this game being a complete blowout. Georgia has a bunch of talent, immense talent. I think they win this game. But I don't think they win the game by 2 touchdowns. I would take TCU plus 12.5. It opened at 13.5.
Wow.
Pretty crazy. And if you can player prop things, Max Duggan to throw for 2 touchdowns, plus 110. I think that's pretty juicy. And then
Is that running back going to be okay? The Miller guy, the starter that got hurt for them?
Not sure yet. Not sure. Watch out for Kenny McIntosh, though, for Georgia. I'd like him to score as well if you can player prop. But TCU updates. You know, it's hard, too, when you talk about bowl games. I did not have a very good bowl game betting stretch, and it's because there were so many opt-outs, and you can't predict what a backup's going to do. Right. You just can't. Like, even if you know that a backup's playing, you just can't predict it. Like, nobody predicted Iowa to shut out Kentucky 21-0. Nobody predicted that.
That dude was a bomb.
Yeah, he did not play football very well.
Oh my God.
But my boy Cooper DeJean had another pick 6, and he as a freshman set a bunch of records. But DeMercado, 17 carries, 150 yards. Kendre Miller had 8 carries for 57 yards before he got hurt. But I have not seen anything on Kendre lately. It just says questionable. Naturally. Why would it say anything different?
Like an ankle? I don't even remember what the injury was.
I don't remember either. He kind of like went out of the game secretly, if that makes sense. Like, it was almost like, wait, did he get hurt? Like,
he decided to take himself out, kind of.
Yeah, it was almost. Well, it was like, did you miss the injury? So it was a knee injury. But I don't remember seeing the injury. Like, that's what I meant by an under the radar injury. That's probably
maybe looked like a normal tackle, but tweak something.
I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, Amari DeMercado, he showed out. He balled out. But here's what I was going to tell you. So going back to 2001. Okay, before I get there, TCU to make the title game, they are the longest preseason title odds to make it. So they were 201 to make it to the title game. Just make it there. Or to reach the college football playoff, I should say. The only other team to do that, the biggest long shot to cash, was back in 2001. Or going back to 2001 and using this data. This team ended up making it in 2010, Troy. They were the longest odds for a team to eventually win it all at 50-1 preseason. Do you know who that team was in 2010?
2010.
I'll give you a clue. It was an SEC team.
Did they beat Texas?
No. They beat Alabama, and they were a 4.5-point underdog.
2010.
A fellow SEC team.
Conferences aren't my strong suit, but I can get it. I know a few.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I want to say something gross, but I know that it's not right. But is it gross?
It's not popular, but it's not gross.
What about, like, I'm just going to say, is LSU in the SEC?
Yeah, they are.
LSU.
It's not LSU.
Mississippi State.
Nope.
Damn it.
You're around the right area. Auburn.
Nah.
Cam Newton.
Yeah, I thought about that, but I can't believe they were that big of dogs.
Yeah. Do you remember the Iron Bowl? Auburn's going to win the football game.
Yeah.
I don't think that's when it was. I think the Iron Bowl came a little bit later. Maybe not. Maybe it was that. No, I don't remember for sure. But that was
Yeah, I
a
don't think
24
that was Cam,
point.
but-
That was a 24 point
actually?
comeback Cam led in the 2010 Iron Bowl
Cam
against
Newton.
Alabama.
Yeah,
Pretty
I thought
incredible.
about that, but yeah, didn't say it. No grapes.
So TCU could make history if they find a way to win this game. I don't see it happening. Georgia's just so talented.
I don't want Georgia to win.
I'm going to be rooting for TCU. Why not?
Oh, well, and just seeing that Bennett kid just get all emotional, like, you just won one? Like, if this was your first one, and you bawling your eyes out by making it to the game you just were last year.
Didn't he come back in that game though? Like he
did.
He let a good comeback.
Yeah, but that kick was terrible. Dude.
That kick wasn't even close.
Like, they should have just chucked it up to the end zone. I don't know. Like, I don't know where they saw him kicking 50-yard field goals, but
I feel like you have to have him kick it in that situation because you kick it to win. But
my God.
how do you shank it that bad? Like, at least go short. Like, be online, but kick it short. Know that you can only kick a 47-yard field goal.
I mean, it was off as soon as he touched it.
Pretty nuts.
That poor guy. He would have ate for free in that area for the rest of his life.
He'd have been the most popular guy in school, I'll tell you that much.
Oh, God, yeah.
Hey, as we look at the NHL slate, because I know that's something that's one of our strong suits, did you place anything for tonight? I know we record on Wednesday.
I did. I placed 2.
Let me hear what you got.
Okay. Oh, I did 3 because I'm a degenerate. So
Naturally.
The World Juniors, I did Canada minus 0.5. Oh, my God. What's that kid's name? Connor
Bedard.
Is it Bedard?
Bedard. He will be a better prospect than Jack Hughes was when he entered the league.
God, dude, that kid
He's
is
so good.
So I have them to basically just win by a goal. And then I did 3 goal scorers. I did Nico Hischier,
Love it.
Kirill, Kaprizov, and Troy Terry. I know the Ducks are blacklisted. They will be after this.
Oh my good. Against Jake?
Well, he played yesterday.
Jake Ottinger?
So, yeah, he was in goal last night. So maybe I'm hoping it's a backup, potentially, on a back-to-back.
All right, I'm going to look it up, but toss your next one out.
So then I did 3 1.5s. Jack Hughes, Nikita Kucherov, and Rupe Hintz, 2 points.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
I like Rupe.
Rupe. And then I did a safer one just to kind of basically break me even. I did Dylan Larkin, Mats Zuccarello, and Troy Terry to get a point. If he can't score, at least get a fucking assist.
Wedgwood is projected to start. He's not confirmed, but he's projected, and that dude is not good.
That's huge.
Scott Wedgwood, 6'4" has a 3.03 goals against average and a save percentage.
Wedgwood.
However, he's got a save percentage of .91. So he sees a lot of shots. John Gibson's in net for the Ducks. That's going to be a bloodbath. He averages about 4 goals allowed a game. Can you tell me how many losses he has on the year? They've played, I'll give you a hint. They've played, take away the ties here because I don't know if that's applying to their win total or loss total. They've played 22 games. Guess how many losses? Just him. I'm sorry. He's started 22 games. They probably played more.
Right. Okay. I'm going to guess he has 15 losses.
16 losses. He's 6-16-3. John Gibson, everybody.
Oh,
looks like the kicker at Ohio State. All right. Going on to Thursday, what are the games that you like? What are the games you can preface for our listeners to kind of like maybe pay attention to because it's a good slate of games. And something that I like to look at as well are the over-under totals on games. And if it's 6.5, that's kind of the games I tend to stick with when it comes to betting on points and goal scorers. So, for example, the Kraken Maple Leafs game. Like, that is a game I see the Maple Leafs scoring 5 goals.
Yeah, I mean, they just held McDavid to 2.
They did, but I don't think the Oilers are a very good offensive team. They have great players. They have McDavid and Draisaitl and Hyman, and Nugent Hopkins, but like everybody else is kind of a bum. It's just a bunch of scrubs. Beside that top line, all you have to do is kind of shut down, 2, 3, and 4? That's it? You shut down 2, 3, and 4 and worry about 1? They're not a very good offensive team. They score a lot because of McDavid, but that's about it. Next to that...
Seattle.
I
love Seattle.
Yeah, go Kraken. Next to that, you have the Capitals Blue Jackets. That'll be a high-scoring game. You have the Blues Devils, which will be a high-scoring game. Edmonton and New York, the Islanders. That one's set at 6.5. That would be an avoidable game for me. I don't know if I would touch that because the Islanders can either let up 1 goal or they could let up 4 goals. But they don't also score very much. They average about 3 goals a game, but lately, if you look at their scores, it's been a lot of 1-2 goal performances. But then you have the Avalanche Vancouver Canucks game at 9. That'll be a high-scoring game. So you have about 4 games you can choose from right there just to build off of.
I love those games. I think that there'll be a lot of 1.5s in those games, and like Matthews and a McKinnon. Yeah, I think you could see like Ovi being at 1.5 against the Blue Jackets who
Absolutely.
give up goals for a living.
Gaudreau will probably be 1.5.
Yeah.
I could see even Jack Hughes being 1.5. I could see...
He was tonight. Let's go.
I could see Buchnevich or Kyrou being 1.5 in that Blues game. There's just a lot that you can choose from there. That's what I would tell people to stick with. Now, get dangerous if you want to. The Coyotes are playing the Flyers. There could be a ton of goals scored in that game, or there could be 3 goals scored in that game. If you're going to bet that game, I'd bet Clayton Keller, and I'd bet Travis Konechny. But if you're not going to bet like just top goal scorers, I love Owen Tippett. Owen Tippett's been cashing for me a lot this year, and he's normally plus odds. And I like, is it Lawson Krause?
Just Krause.
Lawson Krause. It's Lawson, though, right?
Yeah.
And he's somebody that is always plus odds, too, that I like to mix in games where the Coyotes should be scoring, and that's one of them. Outside of that game, nothing else strikes my eye. I hate betting on the Golden Knights. Like any game, any team that plays the Golden Knights, especially the Penguins in the way that they've been playing, they have not been scoring like they should. And Bruins Kings scares me just as well.
Yeah, that could be a 2-1 game, easy. That's like our touchdown bets. You have if you're gonna bet, you better get the first or second goal.
Better bet
Otherwise,
right.
Otherwise, you're done. You're banking on the empty netter.
I'll tell you what, though. Maybe bet Pasta first goal in that game. I bet the Bruins score first. It's just a matter of who to think scores first in that game. Do you want to talk NFL? I mean, we can provide some things, but there's just a lot of variables that could take place to push it back. But we'll talk
might as well
some NFL games, and then we'll bounce off here. Appreciate you sticking with us all the way throughout the show. What do you like going? We'll start with Saturday's games. That is the Chiefs, Raiders, and Titans, Jags. The Titans, one of the most injury-prone teams over the last 2 years, and the Jags that look like the Titans this year in the injury column, both fighting for the division.
Yeah, or going home, right? Like neither of them are going to see the wild card. So, and I don't know. It's going to be tough for me to do anybody on Tennessee, but I mean, they didn't look as bad as I thought that they would against Dallas's defense. Yeah. I thought that Dobbs kid, he surprised me a little bit. I'm not saying he did amazing, but he did a lot better than I thought. I didn't think that a wide receiver would catch a touchdown, and he fed one into Robert Woods there towards the end. I guess I would take someone on Jacksonville, maybe somebody like Zay Jones. I mean, I think ETN's kind of an easy pick there. And the Chiefs, I would assume they'd be playing kind of hard.
I would think they are because they have to win. They have to win out. Right, they have to get to 14 wins.
Right,
and the Bills have to win then both of their games in order to get the bye. So you want to put the pressure on.
Yeah. So in that game, I would probably just do like a Kelsey or a Pacheco.
And I don't
Nothing
hate
too crazy.
I don't hate either of those plays. The status of Derrick Henry is healthy now, correct?
Oh, nice.
I'm
That'll
right.
help.
I'm right when I say that. Yeah, practicing in full on Tuesday. So
That'll help.
That's somebody that I would look at betting on too if you're going to put together. And maybe look at this as like I look at the goals, right? But take ETN and Henry to score, or if you want to get a little crazy, take Trevor Lawrence to run one in, and then go to the other game and pick two between those at hand. From the Chiefs, I would probably lean Kelsey to stay safe, and in the Raiders game, I mean, you got to lean Jacobs because who knows if Jarrett Stidham's going to perform like he did last week.
Yeah, another guy that blew my mind.
Yeah, so
against a fantastic defense.
It's nice though that you have Saturday football again.
No Thursday, but Saturday's nice.
Yeah, I'll take Saturday. I mean, even though we're missing out on Thursday, a lot of NHL games on Thursday to take up that time, up that window. So I'm excited about that. And then moving on to Sunday, you have the Vikings-Bears game at the top of the DraftKings charts. And, I'll start there because I think the Bears did a tremendous job in saying, hey, it's not worth it. Don't start Justin Fields. They're going to start Nathan Peterman. I think that was the right move.
Yeah. I mean, they're playing for nothing.
Right.
Literally.
And all you can do at this point is ruin your chance at number 2.
Right.
That number 2 draft pick, which I think I was looking over this today, dude, and this is a conversation that you'll really enjoy, so I'm going to bring it up. I was looking at a mock draft that got released today, and it was by Jordan Reed, and he had at number 1
like the safety?
Not like the safety. But same name. Maybe it is. I don't know. Is it the safety? Is he writing for ESPN now?
I don't know if his first name's Jordan, but he was a 49ers safety, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Jordan Reed. I'm going to look it up just to make sure. Okay, I'm on his Twitter.
I'm going to say no.
College football writer, college color commentator.
Oh, no, he was a tight end, but not the one we're thinking of.
Interesting.
Yeah, 3rd round pick in 2013.
Yes. To the Commanders?
Yeah, Redskins at the time, but yes, Commanders.
Yeah. Okay. Not him, though, I don't think. This is different Jordan Reed.
Like the concussion Jordan Reed?
I don't think this is...
Good Lord.
I don't think this is...
How many Jordan Reeds are there?
So anyway, he wrote an article laying out the mock, and Bryce Young went number 1 to Houston, which I think is the pick 2. However, C.J. Stroud, he'll give him a run for his money after that game against
pick,
Georgia.
Man. I would not want to have that pick.
Well, because
to make that decision.
Here's what you have. You have a guy that has the same IQ, I think, as a Patrick Mahomes, somebody that can make plays in the backfield and with his feet more than C.J. Stroud, but he's small. Like, Bryce Young is not a big guy.
He's like Russell Wilson small.
Right. And you look at C.J. Stroud, and that's a pocket-passing big quarterback that showed that he could use his legs in that game against Georgia.
He gives me, like, Donovan McNabb vibes.
C.J. Stroud?
Just like, I've never seen a quarterback that's just so scared to run.
Yeah,
just run, dude. Like, you're faster than most people. Just run, and he did, and that's why they were successful.
Well, in the Big Ten though, he didn't have to do that because they're like the only team that doesn't just run the ball and pound the rock.
Because when he was running the ball, he looked great.
And Henderson's a stud too, so he didn't have to run the ball all too much. He could throw though, but his receivers are so dang good, that he just didn't have to. But C.J. Stroud is an absolute stud, and if you look at it, even though Stroud's projected to go second in this mock draft, Bryce Young, I believe, today was plus 110 to go first, and Stroud was plus 130. So they just don't know. It's going to come down to the combine.
And I can't wait. It's going to be so awesome because they're going to be trying to trick people into thinking who they're going to pick.
But this was the conversation we had too, man, because now that the Bears are going to forego this last game, they're not going to beat They're not going to beat the
Vikings.
The Vikings. No. And if they do, I mean, Nathan Peterman, screw you.
Yeah, literally.
But I talked about how a quarterback is needed for a lot of teams, right? Because I wouldn't be surprised if the Seahawks take a quarterback. I know Geno Smith has been good, but I wouldn't be surprised if they take a young guy. You look at the Colts at 5, they need a quarterback. You look at the Lions, who could use a quarterback. Jared Goff's been good, but they could still surprise some people and take a quarterback. You look at the Raiders, who benched Derek Carr. They're going to need a quarterback. And then you look at the Panthers, who are dealing with Sam Darnold right now, who's been good for them, but is he your long-term option? Probably not. You want to take a shot on a guy. 4 quarterbacks could go in the top 10. And if the Bears were to trade down, there are so many teams that have multiple first-round picks that even if, say, the Seahawks wanted a quarterback, say they wanted Stroud, but they were worried that the Colts were going to trade up to get that pick, the Seahawks could trade up, the Bears could move to 3, and the Bears could then snag their pick later on in the draft at 16 and just get both first-rounders from them.
That would be sick.
And so, I love the fluctuation that this brings the Bears, even though it may require a miss on Jalen Carter or Will Anderson. But then we fell into the trap of the conversation of, is a defense built on one player or a team?
Right.
Because a lot of times you're like, oh, no, it's a team. But then when you really think about it, it's like, okay, when you think defense on the Commanders, who do you think of?
Chase Young.
You think of Chase Young. When you think of defense on the 49ers, even though they're a great defensive team, who do you think of?
It's Bosa and Fred Warner.
You think
for sure.
Nick Bosa, for sure, the first name that comes out of your mouth. And then it was the same thing when the Bears traded for Khalil Mack. That was their defense, Khalil Mack. So now it got me thinking, maybe you could use a pass rusher like Will Anderson or Jalen Carter. And is it worth passing on that guy? I just love thinking about all the different scenarios.
I can't believe the season's over and I'm already pumped for the draft.
I know. Well, and because we're in dynasty leagues too, the draft helps us a ton because it allows us to see. By the way, and this is for our listeners, we play in a fantasy league that is a dynasty league, but it's a point per rush league, and running backs are vital to have on your team. In that league, Bijan Robinson is going to be the number 1 draft pick, no matter what. He's going to end up being taken in the first round. That's going to be the first running back off the board. Guess what team is projected in this mock draft to take him? It's a team that you wouldn't think needed a running back, and they're in the NFC North.
Who has good? Who you have to think of their running backs.
So,
right?
Yep. So in the NFC North, you have Green Bay, who's got Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. You have Dalvin Cook and Alexander Madison. You have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams.
Yeah, and then you have the Bears.
And then you have the Bears, who have David Montgomery and Khalil Herbert. But the Bears
on a contract year.
The Bears don't have they don't have 2 picks in the first round. So you can count them out. You have,
I guess, Minnesota.
The Lions are projected in this mock draft. And I know Swift's had the injury issues, but the tandem that was started between him and Jamal Williams, you really want to add Robinson to that mix?
Yeah, well, but Williams is a contract year too.
That is true. That is true. And if you get a guy like Bijan Robinson,
he needs so much more than running backs, dude.
Right.
They have the worst defense in the league.
And Aiden Hutchinson, another guy you think of if I said Detroit's defense, Aiden Hutchinson.
Yep. Absolutely.
So it was crazy just looking at this mock draft, and I love seeing various mock drafts come out weeks later when things when there's a lot of movement and college football with all the opt-outs. I haven't seen one since McShay's before the bowl game, so this got me excited to see that today. I know I just kind of went off on a tangent there, but we both love having this conversation, and I'm sure you guys too at home. But aside from that, any game on Sunday or games on Sunday that you're really paying attention to, because if we play it out like we think it will be played, there aren't going to be a lot of people sitting.
So, yeah, you got the Bengals and Ravens playing for the division, so that would be a good game to bet on. The Bucs wrapped it up. They're not going to play anybody. I don't think the Vikings will play many starters. I think they'll have that win wrapped up before it hits halftime. Texans Colts, I mean, they're playing for nothing, but at least they'll probably still play.
Right.
Who knows? But like you go again with the Texans trying to, have they wrapped up the first pick yet?
The Texans, yes.
So they have it already?
Yes, because even if they win, oh no, they have a tie, don't they?
Yeah, so I mean,
maybe not.
I think they did because the Bears lose, they'll be 3-14, and that'll be worse, or that'll be better.
So right now, Houston is 2-13-1. The Bears could get the one if Houston wins this week.
Yeah, that would be insane.
There's no way they allow that to happen. Houston's tanking, right? You don't win. You purposely lose this game.
Correct.
Who are they playing?
The Colts.
Oh my goodness! Could you see Jeff Driscoll going off?
The Colts.
Jeff Driscoll doesn't want to lose his job, so he wins this game so they don't get Bryce Young. Because that would be better for the Bears, because if somebody trades up to 1,
yeah,
now you're getting a lot more for that pick because Houston needs a quarterback.
Exactly.
Oh my goodness.
The Jets and Dolphins, they're both playing for a playoff spot. That would be a good one to bet on. And it's in Miami, so the weather shouldn't really be an issue. Saints, Panthers are done because the Bucs wrapped that up. Steelers need to win, so that the Steelers, maybe taking someone on the Steelers wouldn't be a bad idea.
Right.
And then the Giants, I don't think that we'll see a lot of their starters. I think they wrapped up their wild card spot. They'll be chilling.
They have. They're 9-6-1. They're wrapped because the Seahawks are 8-8, and so are the Lions Packs.
Like taking like a Metcalf or someone would be good.
Well, and
a Kenneth Walker's due.
I'm really looking forward to that game. That the Lions Packers game. I'm really looking forward to that.
Could be crazy good.
Because if the Lions win, I believe they're in if the Seahawks lose.
Correct. Yes.
But the Packers, if they win, they're in.
Yes.
And do you remember when we were talking about how they weren't going to make the playoffs and Aaron Rodgers needs to be benched, and now all of a sudden they could make the playoffs? And, once the Packers are in the playoffs, they can make any type of run they want. That defense is playing really well right now.
Yes, it is.
They're playing like we thought they should have been playing at the start of the year.
I hope they end up playing the Vikings in the first round and just do exactly what they just did to them a couple days ago.
Mm-hmm. Vikings are not a good team.
Dude, Kirk Cousins is a joke.
I don't know why they keep thinking that just because they make a good run or get to the playoffs that they think Kirk Cousins is the answer and that can be the answer. You're hindering Justin Jefferson's career. He's making Kirk Cousins' career right now.
Yes, he is. Yeah. There's so many quarterbacks that you can't turn the ball over the way you turn the ball over if you want to make it to a Super Bowl. You have to be conservative, and some of these guys just don't want to be, especially when they're losing. As soon as Kirk Cousins gets down a touchdown or two, he doesn't look like the same QB.
He loses all control of his body.
And he just forces throws that if there was a tie game, he wouldn't be forcing. And he's just got to manage a game better. That's it. Mm-hmm. That's all you got to do. You have a good run game. You have good receivers, man. You have a shitty defense. And that's why you get down so many points, which that they're not going to win a championship with that defense either. Right.
So in regards to these games, I would just bet on the games that are supposed to have playoff implications.
Have meaning. Yeah, exactly.
Like, don't go out and bet on the 49ers game against the Cardinals, which is like a 14-point spread, and expect to get your money's worth in that game. Because as of right now, maybe there's fluctuation for the 49ers a little bit. If a bunch of scenarios happen, they could jump here or they could drop if they lose. They're not losing this game, though. But I'm not going to bet McCaffrey to score a touchdown because at some point McCaffrey could sit. Mm-hmm. At some point Kittle could sit. At some point Purdy could sit. So focus on the games that look like the Seahawks-Rams, for example, because it has meaning for the Seahawks and the Rams' run defense hasn't been very good lately. Maybe bet Kenneth Walker. Maybe bet DK Metcalf. You look at the Giants-Eagles, and the Eagles, I think, still need to win in order to solidify the bye. Look at that game, because the Giants are going to look to play spoiler on their season there. Look toward, as Troy said, the Ravens-Bengals game. Like, that game still has playoff meaning. There's a lot of games that do, but there's a lot of games that don't. And stay away from the games that don't. Just kind of plain and simple there. Hey, you want to build a parlay?
I do.
Let's do it.
I would love to.
Let's build it. Who do you like first? We're going to do 4. You know what? Let's do this instead, because we never really stick with the same sport. Let's do hockey. Okay. Let's build a parlay for hockey, and because we have to build it for Thursday, because that's like the amount of games that they show us, let's build an NHL parlay. So you kick us off. Tell me, points or goals? What are we doing?
Do one of each.
One of each.
Okay.
Can't do the same game, though.
No, you cannot. Which is fine.
All right, start with the point.
I mean, I'm going to do Nate 1.5. Are you kidding me?
Love that play. And I am going to do, because I would have said Nate 1.5 if you didn't, so that if that reassures anybody out there on that pick. Give me, I don't know if I want to do Matthews for a goal or 1.5. Give me Matthews 1.5.
Okay.
I may change my mind here, but let's stick with that for now. Okay.
Oh, that.
And who do you like for a goal?
For a goal, I am going to do Kale Makar.
You can't do that because the points won't correspond, remember?
Well,
we're going to build it together.
To be able to put all 4 together like we normally do?
Eventually, yeah.
Okay. Well, if I had to pick, I'm going to do... There's not as many games as I thought there were.
There's a good amount. 3, 6, 9, 10. 10 games. That's a good amount of games.
Let's just do... We'll do a Jack Hughes goal then.
Son of a gun. That was going to be my other pick. I'll go with Connor McDavid then. I know he's not going to have great odds, but I think he finds the back of the net against the Islanders. And if it weren't him, it was going to be Ovi, but I didn't want to double down on Ovi. Or do I double down on Ovi? Against the Blue Jackets? Blue Jackets stink.
Yeah, they do.
No, I said McDavid. Let's stick with McDavid. That's what we'll go with for the parlay. You have Nate to get 2 points, Matthews to get 2 points, McDavid to score, and Jack Hughes to score. I like that bet.
Fire.
I like that bet. And you know what? Toss them around if you want to, because I would say I like Matthews to score too. Troy just mentioned he likes Kale to score. We mentioned OV. There's a lot of games. We talked about it during our Thursday stretch. Build that parlay with us. That's what we're placing, and make some money with us while we do it. We appreciate you joining the show today. If you ever have any questions, send them in. We'd love to answer them at Hurrdat Sports. You can toss me a follow at Andrew Rogers TV on Twitter. You can also find Troy Aldridge, which I'm going to get this right, Troy. You can find Troy at Aldridge_Troy on Twitter. Got it down. We're making money this week. And if you're not with us, well, you're going to be sad once we come back on the air next Thursday. Thanks for joining us. Stick around for any updates. Follow us on Twitter. We'll post our plays there. But until next Thursday, good night.
A Hurrdat Sports Network production.